Imagine for a moment, if you will, a brand new nation, born not just from an idea, yet really from the ashes of immense global tragedy. A nation declared only to be immediately surrounded by hostile neighbors, with virtually no natural resources to speak of. Now picture what it would take for that nation, against all conceivable odds, to not just cling to survival, but to transform into a formidable global player, a true force to be reckoned with on the world stage. Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into precisely that extraordinary evolution, the journey of Israel. It's a compelling story of relentless survival, audacious innovation, and incredibly shrewd strategic maneuvering that has, kind of against all conventional wisdom, led it to a truly unique and powerful position globally. Our material for this deep dive is a fascinating set of excerpts from Israel.txt, a source that lays out a really compelling narrative of its journey over nearly 8 decades. Our mission today is to cut through the noise, to extract the absolute key nuggets of knowledge about how this breathtaking transformation happened, the pivotal moments, the relentless driving forces, and the complex challenges that even today persist. By the end of this deep dive, you're going to get a genuine shortcut to understanding the intricate, often surprising factors behind Israel's remarkable rise to global influence.
What's truly fascinating here, and what our source material underscores repeatedly, is the sheer speed of this transformation. It's remarkable. In less than 80 years, think about that, less than a single human lifetime, Israel has gone from an existential struggle, literally fighting for its very survival on day one, to a nation whose military, technological, and diplomatic power is felt and acknowledged worldwide. The source really highlights this rapid ascent, making it clear this wasn't just, happenstance or a lucky break. Instead, it's presented as the direct result of a unique culture of innovation, born from the crucible of constant conflict, carefully cultivated strategic alliances forged out of necessity, and an unshakable, deeply ingrained national resolve. We're going to explore each of those pillars in depth, dissecting how they intertwined, often in surprising ways, to create this utterly unique trajectory.
So let's go back to the absolute beginning. Our source starts us right at the moment of birth, May 14th, 1948. This wasn't just any nation being born into a peaceful world, was it? There was a profound, almost desperate context to this declaration.
No, not at all. You've hit on a crucial point there. The Declaration of Independence on May 14th, 1948 wasn't merely a political act of state building in the, let's say, traditional sense. It was a profoundly significant, almost defiant moment that emerged directly from the tragic and harrowing backdrop of World War II and, more specifically, the Holocaust. This historical context is absolutely paramount for understanding the nation's foundational ethos, a deep-seated, almost visceral commitment to self-preservation, and an unwavering determination to ensure that the Jewish people would never again be so vulnerable, so reliant on the goodwill of others for their very existence. This very context, as the source explicitly states, clarifies why the newly formed country immediately found itself under immense existential pressure. It wasn't just surrounded by hostile countries, a fact that alone would challenge any nation state, but critically, it also possessed limited resources. Imagine, if you will, being born into a world where your very breath is a challenge, where every move is met with immediate, overwhelming opposition. This immediate, dire situation wasn't just a hurdle. It fundamentally set the stage for the narrative of resilience, ingenuity, and ironclad determination that would define Israel's path forward for decades to come. It forged a never-again mindset that permeated, pretty much every aspect of national policy and civilian life.
And the challenges weren't theoretical. They were immediate and brutal, right? It wasn't just a threat. It was an actual immediate invasion, literally hours after the declaration. What did the source tell you about the sheer audacity or maybe desperation of that early period?
Precisely. The source details how, literally hours after its declaration of independence, a coalition of 5 Arab countries attacked, initiating what would become known as the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This wasn't a slow buildup of tensions or a distant threat. It was an immediate, all-out assault, a direct test of the nation's very existence before it even had a chance to, consolidate. The situation was incredibly stacked against them. You had a fledgling state, barely formed, facing multiple established armies. Yet despite severe resource shortages and limited military capabilities, the source paints a picture of a desperate struggle, with civilian volunteers rushing to form ad hoc units and scrounge for any available weapon. Israel not only survived this initial onslaught, but remarkably also expanded its borders. This outcome against such overwhelming odds wasn't just a victory, it was truly foundational. It instilled a permanent principle within Israel's strategic thinking, an unwavering, almost non-negotiable commitment to self-defense, strategic offense, and full vigilance. This is a key insight into understanding its subsequent military development and its proactive, often preemptive, approach to security. This initial conflict forged a deep-seated belief that survival depended on constant readiness, exceptional intelligence, and the ability to project power both defensively and, if absolutely necessary, offensively to neutralize threats before they materialized on its borders. It was a baptism by fire that imprinted a core doctrine of self-reliance.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because those early desperate survival instincts didn't just keep them alive. They laid the groundwork for future power, didn't they? It's not just about surviving, it's about learning and adapting at an incredible pace, almost as if every conflict was a harsh, accelerated training program.
Absolutely, that's a perfect way to put it. The Suez Crisis in 1956, just a few years later, wasn't merely another conflict. It served as a crucible that further strengthened its military capabilities. It wasn't just about mere survival anymore. It was about refining tactics, integrating new intelligence, and developing a more sophisticated military prowess. The source implies a rapid absorption of lessons learned, a continuous feedback loop of adaptation. Then, the Six-Day War in 1967 was a true watershed moment, one that fundamentally altered the regional power dynamic. This conflict, as our source points out, was pivotal, effectively establishing it as a regional power. The speed, coordination, and decisiveness of that victory, achieved in such a short span, were, frankly, astounding and demonstrated a qualitative leap in military capability and strategic planning. The source specifically details key strategic territories gained during this period. The Golan Heights, crucial for its defensive advantage, you see, the West Bank, its historical and strategic complexities, and East Jerusalem, with its profound religious and cultural significance. Each subsequent conflict, from 1948 through 1967 and beyond, didn't just test Israel. Each one further strengthened Israeli military doctrine, ultimately rendering it, in the source's words, invincible in the region. This progression shows a clear, almost relentless path from initial desperate defense to strategic dominance. The lessons learned from each engagement were immediately integrated into its military planning, training, and technological development, creating a truly formidable and highly adaptable fighting force. It wasn't just about winning battles, it was about perpetually upgrading the entire defense apparatus based on real-world, high-stakes experience.
So, from literally defending its very existence minute by minute, Israel rapidly developed into a formidable military power. But here's the fascinating pivot. How did this defensive necessity translate into building a cutting-edge, self-sufficient industry? Especially considering those initial limited resources we discussed. This isn't just about importing weapons, is it?
That's a critical bridge, and it speaks volumes about the nation's foresight and, ingenuity. Over time, Israel didn't just rely on foreign aid or purchases. It consciously and strategically built a self-reliant and world-class defense industry. The necessity was the mother of invention here. Early on, traditional arms suppliers were often unreliable due to political pressures, so Israel had to develop its own capabilities. This wasn't merely about acquiring weapons, it was about a deeply strategic decision to innovate, design, and create them domestically, fostering a robust ecosystem of engineers, scientists, and manufacturers. And the results of this unwavering commitment are truly striking when you look at the numbers. In 2024, its defense exports hit a record level of $14.7 billion, which represents a significant 13% increase from the previous year. Think about that. A relatively small nation has become a major global player in defense technology, demonstrating a high demand for Israeli defense solutions worldwide. This isn't just about internal strength or regional dominance, it's a clear indicator of global market influence and a reputation for excellence. The source names specific systems that truly represent Israel's cutting-edge capabilities and its leadership in what it calls technological warfare. The Iron Dome, for instance, has become almost synonymous with missile defense, showcasing an unparalleled ability to intercept short-range rockets, protecting civilian populations. It's quite famous now. Then there's David's Sling, a multi-level interceptor designed to counter medium to long-range rockets and cruise missiles, adding another crucial layer of defense. And finally, the Arrow missile systems, which are specifically designed for ballistic missile defense, a high-stakes, incredibly complex capability. These systems aren't just advanced pieces of hardware, they represent a layered, integrated defense strategy that allows Israel to counter threats ranging from short-range rockets all the way up to intercontinental ballistic missiles. The source positions this as a strategic masterpiece, allowing a small nation to effectively neutralize threats from vastly larger adversaries, fundamentally altering the calculus of regional conflict and providing a critical shield that enables other forms of national development.
This isn't just about tanks and missiles, though, is it? There's a fascinating, almost symbiotic link between the military and tech innovation that the source hints at. It's like the intense needs of defense are directly fueling civilian breakthroughs, creating an incredible engine for the broader economy.
That's a profoundly important point, and one the source emphasizes as a core driver of Israel's technological prowess. There's a close relationship between these sectors, specifically highlighting the crucial role of cyber intelligence units like Unit 8200. These aren't just military units in the conventional sense. They are elite incubators of some of the most brilliant technical minds in the country. The rigorous training, the high-stakes problem solving, and the cutting-edge research undertaken within these units to protect national security generate unparalleled expertise. The source explicitly states that these units have given rise to numerous innovations that are now leading the way in global cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. What's truly unique, as the source highlights, is the seamless flow of talent and ideas. Think of it like this. The problem-solving skills, the advanced cryptography, the network defense strategies developed in these elite military units to protect national security don't just stay in uniform. These highly trained individuals, often finishing their mandatory military service, immediately become founders, engineers, and cybersecurity experts in the civilian sector. They directly translate military-grade research into groundbreaking commercial applications, from secure payment systems and advanced data encryption to cutting-edge AI for logistics and predictive analytics. This connection shows how intense military needs can directly fuel civilian technological advancement, creating a unique dual-use ecosystem where skills, technologies, and even personnel transition seamlessly between defense and commercial sectors, creating a robust pipeline of talent and innovation.
So what does this all mean for the bigger picture? It's not just about defense, but about a broader technological impact that goes far beyond its borders, defining a unique national identity.
Precisely. This really raises an important question. How much of Israel's celebrated startup nation identity, which we'll get into in a moment, is directly rooted in its security imperatives and the brilliant minds trained within these specialized military units? The source implies it's a powerful feedback loop. Acute security needs drive an intense demand for innovation. This, in turn, creates a highly skilled and adaptable workforce. That workforce, imbued with a culture of audacious problem-solving and rapid iteration, then fosters an incredibly dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem. The discipline, the ingenuity, and the cutting-edge research required for national defense often have direct, immediate applications in the commercial world, leading to a vibrant tech scene that's agile and globally competitive. This interdisciplinary flow, where military service provides a powerful launchpad for civilian careers in tech, is really what sets Israel apart in the global technology landscape and has cemented its reputation as a hub of innovation. It's a national trait born from necessity, you could say.
Beyond military might, the source points to what it calls an economic miracle. How did that happen, considering its initial state, which, as you said, sounds like is very much a developing nation, struggling with basic necessities?
You're absolutely right to highlight that contrast. Initially, the economy was heavily reliant on agriculture, foreign aid, and centralized planning. Picture a nation focused on basic sustenance, growing oranges, getting significant support from abroad, with a government-led approach to economic development. This was definitely not the blueprint for a global tech hub. It was an economy built on fundamental needs and external support, a far cry from the dynamic, innovative powerhouse it is today. However, the source indicates a major, deliberate pivot occurred rapidly in the 1980s and 1990s, with a conscious and decisive move towards economic liberalization and technological development. This wasn't just a simple policy tweak, it was a fundamental reorientation, a brave move away from the more socialist, centralized planning that had defined its early decades. This liberalization, coupled with significant government incentives for research and development, created a fertile ground for the technological revolution that was about to hit. It was a calculated risk that, well, it really paid off handsomely.
And crucially, there was a massive influx of talent during that period that must have played a huge, almost catalytic role in fueling this economic shift, correct? It wasn't just policy, it was people.
Absolutely. It was a demographic and intellectual game changer of immense proportions. The dissolution of the Soviet Union led to a historic wave of immigration to Israel. We're talking about millions of educated Jewish immigrants arriving, which, as the source states, gave new momentum to its economy. This wasn't just a population increase, it was a targeted infusion of highly skilled scientists, engineers, mathematicians, and professionals who brought with them world-class academic training, drive, and a strong work ethic. Imagine hundreds of thousands of top-tier minds suddenly integrating into a society primed for technological growth. This wave of human capital provided a critical mass for the emerging tech sector. Today, as a direct and astounding result of this strategic shift and human capital injection, Israel is widely known as the startup nation. The statistics are truly remarkable. It boasts the highest number of startups per capita in the world. For a relatively small country, this underscores a pervasive entrepreneurial spirit, appetite for risk, and a remarkably supportive ecosystem that encourages innovation from the ground up. Furthermore, Tel Aviv is now counted among the world's leading innovation centers. This isn't just a regional claim, it's a global recognition, putting it on par with places like Silicon Valley, London, or Boston. It speaks to a thriving ecosystem of venture capital, incubators, and a culture that really celebrates ambition. What's particularly insightful from the Wall Street Journal report cited in our source is that despite active conflicts, the Israeli stock market has remained stable and investor confidence has remained strong. This speaks to an extraordinary, deep-seated economic resilience and, perhaps, a remarkable decoupling of daily security challenges from long-term economic outlooks. Investors, it seems, are confident in the underlying strength, the deep tech expertise, and the innovative capacity of the Israeli economy, even when the headlines might suggest otherwise. They see the long-term potential, recognizing that this innovation engine, forged in adversity, is fundamentally robust.
So we've covered military and economic power, both pretty formidable. But how did a nation initially so isolated on the international stage, surrounded by hostility, manage to build its diplomatic influence? To the point where it's making major regional peace deals and forging new alliances, that seems like another miracle in itself.
It truly is another remarkable aspect of its evolution. In its initial years, Israel was indeed quite isolated on the international stage. Many nations in the region and beyond did not recognize its existence or maintained, let's say, frosty relations. This was a significant hurdle, limiting its global reach and strategic options. However, the source highlights two pivotal early breakthroughs that began to chip away at this isolation and redraw the diplomatic map. Peace treaties with Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. These were groundbreaking agreements, almost unthinkable at the time. They represented the first formal recognition and normalization of relations with major Arab neighbors, effectively opened a new path for regional engagement, and signaled a potential, albeit slow, shift in the broader Middle Eastern diplomatic landscape. These weren't just symbolic handshakes. They involved complex negotiations, territorial adjustments, and the establishment of full diplomatic ties, a massive step forward.
And then we see an even more recent, an incredibly significant shift with the Abraham Accords. This really expanded the diplomatic landscape even further, didn't it? Moving beyond just its immediate neighbors to include nations across the Arab world.
Precisely. The Abraham Accords in 2020, brokered by the U.S., were truly transformative and marked a paradigm shift in Middle Eastern diplomacy. These agreements allowed Israel to establish normal relations with Arab countries like UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. This was a historic departure from the traditional framework, which had largely tied Arab-Israeli relations solely to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Accords demonstrated that a different path, focusing on shared interests and mutual benefit, was possible. But these accords weren't just about formal diplomatic recognition. They also promoted economic and cultural cooperation, indicating a much deeper integration than just political handshakes. We're talking about tangible shifts, direct commercial flights launching, tourism booming, and even joint research ventures in fields like sustainable agriculture, water technology, and cybersecurity. It's building bridges not just through diplomacy, but through shared economic benefit and cultural understanding, a shift that was almost unimaginable just a few years prior. Crucially, the source also points out that they laid the foundation for a strategic partnership against Iran, adding a significant geopolitical dimension that reshaped regional alliances and presented a united front against a common perceived threat. This multifaceted impact shows the incredible depth and strategic foresight behind these diplomatic achievements.
And of course, we can't talk about Israel's international standing without talking about its long-standing, often complex, but ultimately unwavering relationship with the United States. It's often called the bedrock of its security and diplomatic leverage, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The United States has been Israel's most prominent ally for decades, providing more than $3 billion in military aid every year. This consistent, substantial aid isn't just a handout, it's a critical bedrock of its security, allowing Israel to maintain its qualitative military edge in a volatile region and fund its advanced defense systems, many of which are jointly developed with the U.S. The source acknowledges that while there have been some disagreements between the Netanyahu government and American leadership in recent years, which, as you know, is natural for any long-standing alliance, especially given the complexities of Middle East politics, the alliance remains strong. Reuters, for instance, reported that Prime Minister Netanyahu has succeeded in maintaining U.S. support despite disagreements on many issues. This underscores the deep strategic, intelligence, and institutional ties that transcend individual political differences or short-term frictions. The relationship is robust enough to withstand friction, rooted in shared democratic values and strategic interests. The source even provides a specific, illustrative example of this continued cooperation. In 2025, Israeli attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities received U.S. intelligence support, which further bolstered Israel's regional power. This demonstrates the practical, high-stakes nature of the alliance, where intelligence sharing and strategic coordination are vital to maintaining regional stability and advancing shared security interests, even on the most sensitive of operations. It's a testament to the enduring, deep-seated trust between the two nations.
Despite all this incredible progress, this military might, economic power, and diplomatic reach, the source makes it clear that Israel's journey is not without significant, enduring challenges. Let's unpack some of those because they paint a more complete, nuanced picture of its current state.
You're right. No nation's story, especially one as dynamic and intensely scrutinized as Israel's, is entirely without its difficulties, and Israel's is particularly complex. The ongoing war with Iran is highlighted as being incredibly expensive, costing approximately $12 billion per month. To put that in perspective, that's a staggering financial drain on the economy, diverting massive resources that could otherwise be used for domestic development, social programs, or infrastructure improvements. Beyond the immediate financial burden, there are significant strategic risks. The Washington Post has reported expert warnings that if Israel prolongs military operations too long, it could strategically harm it and further escalate regional conflict. This raises an important question about the long-term sustainability of current military postures, the potential for unintended consequences, and the risk of drawing in more actors into an already volatile region. The source also points to broader costs of conflict. The cost of operating missile defense systems, which, while essential for security, are incredibly expensive to maintain and constantly upgrade. Troop losses, which represent a tragic human toll on families and society, and growing domestic opposition, which indicates a widening internal debate about the nature, duration, and strategic aims of these conflicts. These are significant, multifaceted pressures that weigh heavily on the nation, creating internal friction alongside external threats.
And it's not just external conflicts that pose challenges. The source points to significant internal divisions as well, suggesting a complex societal fabric under constant pressure and evolution.
Indeed. The Palestinian issue remains a deep problem, a persistent source of conflict, international scrutiny, and humanitarian concern. The source mentions specific facets that fuel this tension. West Bank settlements, which are a constant point of contention, raising questions of international law and future statehood. The Gaza blockade, which creates immense humanitarian challenges for the civilian population, leading to widespread criticism. And periodic clashes, which often lead to a tragic cycle of violence and international criticism, further isolating Israel on certain diplomatic fronts. This is a complex humanitarian and political situation with no easy answers, deeply affecting the lives of millions. Beyond this external-facing geopolitical issue, there are significant internal societal divisions within Israel itself. The source notes growing divides between secular and religious communities, reflecting deeply different visions for the country's identity, its legal framework, and its future direction. And between Jewish and Arab citizens, highlighting persistent disparities and historical tensions within its own borders, raising questions about equality and integration. These are fundamental societal fault lines that periodically erupt into political or social unrest, reflecting deep-seated ideological differences. The source further highlights widespread protests over issues like judicial reforms and social inequality. The proposed judicial reforms, for instance, sparked massive protests because many viewed them as undermining democratic checks and balances, consolidating power, and altering the fundamental character of the state. Similarly, concerns about social inequality reflect economic divides and the distribution of national prosperity. This indicates internal political fragility and a society grappling with fundamental questions about its governance and equitable distribution of resources, despite its external strength and economic prowess. These internal tensions are as crucial to understanding Israel's challenges as its external conflicts, creating a multi-layered, complex reality.
So considering everything we've discussed, the historical journey from immense vulnerability, the forging of formidable military and economic power, the building of crucial diplomatic advances, and the persistent internal and external challenges. Well, what's the overall picture of Israel's current standing on the world stage? Where does it stand today?
Well, the source boldly concludes that Israel's position as a superpower is now considered unwavering. This is a powerful statement, indicative of a nation that has truly cemented its place among the global elite, punching far above its weight class, you might say. When we look at the economic indicators, the status is clearly supported. Its gross domestic product, GDP, exceeded $522 billion in 2024, and its per capita income is among the top countries in the world. These aren't just abstract numbers. They are clear, undeniable markers of economic success, a high standard of living for its citizens, and a vibrant, productive economy driven by innovation. Its power is described as multifaceted, stemming from advanced technological innovation, which we've discussed at length, making it a leader in cutting-edge fields, its nuclear capability, which serves as a significant deterrent in a volatile region, altering the geopolitical balance, and its extensive global cooperations and alliances, building networks of influence across continents. These are the key levers of its international power. Furthermore, defense analysts place Israel among the world's top 15 military powers, and remarkably, 8th in arms exports. This concretely establishes its military dominance and its role as a significant provider of cutting-edge defense technology globally, sought after by nations looking to bolster their own security. It's a testament to its strategic depth and technical prowess.
So, what does this all mean for the future? As Israel approaches its 80th anniversary, the source seems to suggest it's standing at a critical juncture, a true crossroads in its identity and global role.
It absolutely does. The source posits that Israel is now at a crossroads. The central question it raises is whether the nation wants to remain merely a military power or play the role of a far-sighted global leader. This prompts a crucial consideration of its strategic vision beyond immediate security and defense needs. It's a question about what kind of global actor it wants to be, one defined solely by its strength and ability to defend itself, or one that leverages its power for broader regional and global good, perhaps through more proactive diplomacy, conflict resolution, fostering economic stability, and extending its technological leadership for shared benefit. The source concludes by emphasizing that decisions made regarding Iran, its ongoing adversarial relationship, Palestine, the unresolved core conflict, internal governance, its own domestic political stability and societal cohesion, and diplomacy, its approach to international relations, will not only determine Israel's future, but also affect the direction of the entire Middle East. This highlights its pivotal central role in regional stability and development. Its choices resonate far beyond its own borders, impacting the lives and futures of millions across a vital part of the world.
What an incredible deep dive into a nation's journey. We've seen how Israel, born from immense adversity and under immediate threat, not only survived, but forged a powerful military and an incredibly innovative economy, building crucial alliances, even as it grapples with deeply rooted internal and external challenges that continue to shape its destiny.
The source truly paints a vivid picture of a nation that leveraged existential necessity into invention and initial isolation into shrewd strategic partnerships. It powerfully underscores the idea that power is multidimensional. It's not just about military might, but also economic prowess, technological leadership, and deft diplomacy, all working in concert.
And for you, our listener, here's something compelling to mull over as you think about the broader implications of this story. The profound question posed by our source material. As Israel stands at this crucial juncture, having shifted from a primary focus on sheer survival to a concrete position of global influence, what truly defines leadership on the world stage for such a unique nation? Is it simply the accumulation of military might and economic power, or something far more nuanced and visionary, perhaps a commitment to broader regional stability and long-term peace? What qualities will define its next 80 years, and how might those choices profoundly shape the future of a vital and volatile region?
Exactly. This raises an important question for you to consider. How do nations balance the immediate, often urgent needs of security and survival, which were so foundational for Israel, with the long-term vision of peace and a broader global leadership role? It's a question with no easy answer, but one that Israel, according to our source, is now uniquely positioned to grapple with for itself, and in doing so, for the world.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Until next time.